Quarterback is obviously the most important position in all of sports. And for some teams, they just seem like they have this never-ending fountain of magnificent quarterbacks. While for others, well, not so much.
The infamous Browns graveyard of all the team's past quarterbacks is back for Halloween.
The NFL is a quarterback-driven league, no two ways about it. And for some strange reason, it seems that there are certain teams that always have great quarterbacks, and some that always have terrible ones. So, how about we take a trip down memory lane, and recent history, to review 5 teams that always have a stud under center, and 5 that always have a bum. GOAT. San Francisco 49ers. There are some teams that just always seem to get it right at the quarterback position, and the San Francisco 49ers are one of them. I mean, we all know the legendary signal callers that had suited up for the Niners. The likes of Joe Montana, Steve Young, and John Brody, who, by the way, are the only trio of quarterbacks to have thrown for more than 200 touchdown passes for the same franchise. Tack on the fact that they all won 70-plus games in scarlet and gold, and 2 of the 3, Montana and Young, won Super Bowls and earned trips to Canton, and these 3 have a case for being one of the best quarterback trios any franchise has had in NFL history. It seems like even when San Francisco doesn't have a guy destined to don a gold jacket one day, they still manage to have someone playing quarterback at a pretty damn high level. Like when Jim Harbaugh came to town and helped lead Alex Smith's resurgence, or when Colin Kaepernick set the league on fire for a couple of seasons. Even now with Jimmy G and Trey Lance in waiting, the Niners always have had someone who knows what they're doing under center. And that is a whole heck of a lot more than you can say about some of the other teams in the NFL who seem content to trot out QBs that look like they were pulled out of the local Kmart that Sunday and simply are hoping for the best. Worst. Chicago Bears. Speaking of teams that are pitifully content with the embarrassing state of affairs that they have at the quarterback position, how about our friends in the Windy City? The Chicago Bears don't just seem negligent in their pursuit of a franchise quarterback, it seems more like they are legitimately enthralled by the fact that they always have an awful QB. And hey, they're determined to keep it that way. Why else would a team trade up to bring Mitch Trubisky into the fold? Never mind who else was on the board at that time. Cough, cough, Patrick Mahomes. But really, was there that much of a mad rush for the University of North Carolina quarterback that they had to trade up for him? The only logical explanation is that the Bears wanted to keep the woeful memory of quarterbacks past alive. Players like Mike Glennon and Rex Grossman. The only halfway decent quarterback that the Bears have had since freaking Sid Luckman was Jay Cutler. And I suppose Jim Harbaugh and Jim McMahon. But still, there is not a single QB that you can point to confidently and be like, yep, that is our guy. Let's just hope for their sake that it all works out with Justin Fields, who, to his credit, has shown some signs that he might be the real deal. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, it's back to the drawing board. GOAT. Los Angeles Chargers. This is one of the more understated franchises on this list, but the now Los Angeles, formerly San Diego Chargers, have had quite a few big-time quarterbacks over the years. And it looks like their latest QB first-round draft pick, Justin Herbert, might also be the franchise quarterback the LA Brass thought him to be when they took him out of Oregon in 2020 to replace Phillip Rivers. Speaking of Rivers, another quarterback they got in the first round after trading the rights to Eli Manning for him in the 2004 draft, he and subsequently the Chargers of the 2000s and 2010s do not get nearly enough. He had the Chargers in contention, and when he was able to limit his gunslinging mistakes, he was on the short list of best quarterbacks in the league, right behind Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And if you want to date back a little further, the Chargers had quarterbacks like Dan Fouts and John Hadle, both having notched over 150 touchdowns and 59 wins. Impressive numbers for their generation. They are easy to overlook, even now in Los Angeles, where they essentially serve as baby brother to the Rams. But the Chargers low-key had some of the most consistent quarterback play of any team in the league. Worst. Miami Dolphins. On the subject of teams that no one pays attention to, how about the Miami Dolphins in the embarrassing quarterback carousel that they've had come through town since Dan Marino, their one saving grace, retired? After Marino hung up his spikes, Miami trotted out Jay Fielder, not to be confused with A.J. Feely, who came next and was equally unimpressive, or Joey Harrington, or Cleo Lemon, or Chad Henne. I mean, come on. The list goes on and on. The only decent players that they've had at the position were Chad Pennington, who, God bless him, lasted in the league despite not being able to throw the ball more than 20 yards downfield. And Ryan Tannehill, who was never able to take that next step in his development while he played for Miami. The Tannehill we've seen since he took over in Tennessee is a massive improvement from the roller coaster version of him that we saw in Miami. And now they've put all their eggs in the Tua Tagovailoa basket. And yeah, that seems to be a disaster in the making. Nothing like taking a quarterback 5th overall, then openly flirting with a guy like Deshaun Watson, whose eligibility is a bigger mystery than the reason that the Dolphins can't find a halfway decent quarterback. GOAT. The Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are another team that is deserving of far more credit than they get for their ability to find and keep talent at the quarterback position. Yeah, we all know the Hall of Fame Super Bowl names like Peyton Manning and Johnny Unitas, but even moving beyond that, they struck gold with Andrew Luck. It was just unfortunate that injuries took such a toll on him that he was forced to retire young. But even with that surprise retirement, Indy in some ways never missed a beat. Phillip Rivers performed well enough for them to make it to the playoffs despite being deep in the twilight of his career. And now, the Carson Wentz rehabilitation project that Frank Reich took on seems to actually be going pretty well. If he can fully rediscover that MVP level of play that he once put on display for the Eagles fans in Philadelphia, now that he's reunited with Reich, that will be another big-time notch in the belt for the Colts organization as a quarterback hub that is right up there with the very best of them.
Throwing it back. Shout out to Johnny U. Johnny U and the boys.
Worst, Washington football team. Then you have teams like the Washington football team, the other key actor in that Andrew Luck draft, as they traded up for RG3. This team, utterly unequipped to deal with a similar adversity as what the Colts endured with Luck's retirement when Griffin's once promising career was derailed by injuries. The Colts bounced back, finding a new solution at quarterback. On the other hand, their quarterback selection process has become a comedy of errors. They tried to find some talent in the draft, but the Dwayne Haskins experiment was an utter embarrassment. And now they're rolling with Taylor Heineke, who, hey, to his credit, has exceeded expectations. But those expectations were extremely low. It seems like we go through this with Washington every few years, though. They can just never get it quite right at quarterback. I mean, think about it. Kirk Cousins might be their most accomplished quarterback of the last few decades. That is when you know it's a truly depressing state of affairs. Kirk, the epitome of mediocrity and the king of garbage time. The man horrified by prime time and destined to keep a team in the wild card hunt, but never any better. Seriously, you tell me they can't find his replacement in the draft? GOAT. Dallas Cowboys. Staying in the NFC East, the oft-criticized Dallas Cowboys actually deserve some credit here for being one of the best organizations in NFL history at producing star quarterbacks. The Cowboys' multiple dynasties were born on the backs of Hall of Famers like Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. Even the relatively middle-of-the-road guys they had, like Danny White, Don Meredith, Tony Romo, and Drew Bledsoe, were Pro Bowl-level guys who consistently got their teams in the mix come postseason time. And now, with Dak Prescott quickly emerging as one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL, it will be interesting to see how the legend of the Dallas Cowboys quarterback continues to evolve. I guess for all the hot air that Jerry Jones appears to be full of, the man does know something about finding talent at the most important position in all sports. Either that, or he's damn good at finding people who know how to find quarterbacks. Worst, Houston Texans. We're staying in Texas with the Houston Texans, the baby brother organization to the Cowboys, who have an absolute nightmare trying to find a consistent performer under center since they joined the NFL around the turn of the century. Think about it. Their first ever franchise quarterback was David Carr. Not exactly a good omen for a young NFL franchise. And in the time since, well, it's almost gotten worse. I mean, they brought in the rocket ship, Brock Osweiler, with little vetting after watching him play like 2 games in Denver. And there were guys like Ryan Mallett, Tom Savage, Brian Hoyer, and so on and so forth. The Texans organization was basically where journeyman careers go to die. And now the situation in Houston has hit its apex, as they finally got a franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson, only to have the rug completely pulled out from under them. First with his trade demand, and then his ensuing scandal, which has left them with the often injured Tyrod Taylor trying to drag along an abysmal roster. And the one and only Davis Mills, who has quickly proven to be one of the worst Texans quarterbacks we have ever seen. Simply put, the Texans make it look impossibly hard to find a good quarterback. GOAT, Green Bay Packers. While Cowboys fans may not love it, there is no denying that the Green Bay Packers have the richest quarterbacking tradition in NFL history. Plain and simple. It started off with Hall of Famer Bart Starr leading the Pack to a victory in the first ever Super Bowl. Then fast forward to the likes of Brett Favre, right into the surly but effective Aaron Rodgers. And you have one of the most epic quarterback trios that the league has ever seen. All 3 led their teams to Super Bowl victories, not to mention the longevity that they showed at the position, which helped turn the Packers into the consistent juggernaut franchise we know them to be today. Worst, New York Jets. Finally, the worst of the worst, the New York Jets. Ever since Joe Namath, who, by the way, had more career interceptions than touchdowns, the Jets have had a stampede of abysmal quarterbacks. You know it's bad when guys like Mark Sanchez, Chad Pennington, and Vinny Testaverde are the most accomplished quarterbacks that the Jets have had in the last 50-some-odd years. They also seem to love trying to bring in Twilight Year veterans that are destined to fall far below the unrealistic expectations that the New York media has for them. Guys like Boomer Esiason, Brett Favre, Neil O'Donnell, and Joe Flacco. And now that the Zach Wilson era is off to a rather ominous start, you have to think that the Jets fans are starting to worry that it'll be the same old song and dance. Reach in the draft for a quarterback, throw him to the wolves with a mediocre roster, and watch it all go up in flames. It's the New York Jets way. But hey, did we miss any obvious teams on our list? Join us in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.